Good afternoon and welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing Committee. That includes all those accessing the meeting via the live stream to YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode. Only audio from the microphones will be captured on live stream, therefore please ensure they are switched on when speaking and switched off when you have finished speaking. Minutes will be produced in the usual way and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on YouTube until such time as the minutes are produced. The first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman of the Licensing Committee for the municipal year. Can I have a nomination, please? Councillor Scanlon?
I nominate Councillor David Oliver.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor?
Yeah, I'd like to second David as well, please.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? In the absence of any further nominations, Councillor David Oliver is elected as Chairman of the Licensing Committee for 2024-2025. Thank you.
Okay. Many thanks for electing me as Chairman for the Licensing Committee for the further municipal year. Would member services please report on any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. We've had apologies from Councillor Gowler.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, is to elect the Vice Chairman of the Licensing Committee for the municipal year. Can I have a nomination, please? Councillor Mascala.
Councillor Humphrey.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murphy. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? In the absence of any other nominations, Michael, you're now Vice Chairman. Thank you very much. Okay. On to agenda item 4, to confirm and sign the minutes of the 17th of May 2022. Can I have a proposer to approve these minutes, please?
Can I make a statement first? I was not present at that meeting, so therefore I am unable to vote because I do not know if those minutes are accurate or not.
Okay.
Same with me as well. I wasn't present at that meeting, so okay.
And obviously the same for myself.
Okay. I think.
Councillor Meekins.
Yeah.
Councillor
Humphrey. So you proposed, Councillor Humphrey? Yeah. Councillor Meekins seconds. Could I have a show of hands, please?
On a lighter note.
Any comments on those minutes, please? Okay, thank you very much. Well, we'll move swiftly on to agenda item 5, to report additional items for consideration which Chairman deems urgent by virtue of special circumstances now to be specified. There are none. So on to agenda item 6. Agenda item 6 is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct in respect to any items to be discussed at this meeting. Are there any? No? Okay, thank you very much. Moving swiftly on to agenda item 7. Agenda item 7 is to receive the proposed increase to current Hackney Carriage Table of Fares report, and I shall pass over to Andy Fox, Senior Licensing and Compliance Officer, to present the report. Please, Andrew. Andy, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. As I say, the report is today to look at a proposed increase to the current Hackney Carriage Vehicle Table of Fares. And as you know, the Council has responsibility under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1976 for setting the maximum fares that can be charged for Hackney carriage vehicles licensed within this district. The table of fares only applies to Hackney carriage vehicles. Private hire operators can agree their hiring charges in advance with their customers at the time of the booking of the journey. The current table of fares was approved by this council on the 12th of May 2022 and is attached to Appendix C. In February in February of 24, officers received a written correspondence from a representative of the Fen and Taxi Trade, in which a request was put forward for the council to consider increasing the current table of fares. In June 2024, it was decided that following a minor consultation to offer an officer's recommendation considering the comments taken into account, the comments from the option A consultation. The taxi trade representative request is shown below in this report as option A, alongside a list of the current fees and charges. As I say, that's option A. Option B is the suggested officer alternative recommendation. What I thought I'd do is I'll break it down for you just to see, just to show you exactly what's happening. So under option A, which is the trade request, what they're looking at there is tariff 1, 2 and 3, which is currently based upon 1 mile or 1/11th of a mile. They're reducing the meterage. So it's reducing it down from 1,609 metres. They want to reduce it down to 1,289.48 of a mile. So they're reducing the part of a mile down from 1/11th of a mile, which is 146.2 metres, down to 139.43 metres. The fee will be kept the same. The waiting time, which is basically when the vehicle is like stationary or traffic lights and things like that, the waiting time, they're reducing that down from 114.2 seconds down to 96 seconds. They've also asked for an increase for excess of 4 passengers from 50p, which it currently is, to £1 per person. They're also offering up a new charge for non-assistance dogs of £2. So that's option A, that's a trade request. So we did a minor consultation on that, and we bore in mind the comments that they fed back to us, which you can see below in the report, and we decided to come up with an officer recommendation. The officer recommendation, what we've done here is tariff 2, we've changed the times from 7 o'clock in the morning till, we've changed the times, which it currently stands at 7 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night, to 7 o'clock in the morning till 2000 hours, 8 p.m. at night. Tariff 2 will change from 2300 hours to 0700 hours to 2000 hours to 0700 hours. And what we've done there is trying to bring in the tariff 2 in the hope that basically we'll attract more drivers to come out and work in the evening, because they've got that extra income with tariff 2 coming into force earlier. We've also suggested, should I say, an overall increase of 20p for the switch on the first part of the mile on tariff 1, 2 and 3. And we've also increased the part of a mile covered by 10p. We've also looked at the waiting time, and the waiting time we're increasing from 40p to 50p. Sorry, what I should have said as well is the fact that we're basing this on 1 mile as it currently stands, keeping it nice and simple, 1 mile. Waiting time increased from 40 to 50p, and we've had an increase, we've gone with what the other 2 suggestions from above, an increase of excess of 4 passengers from 50p to £1.50 per person. And we've also agreed with the new charge for non-assistance dogs of £2. So that's basically an easy way of looking at the increases suggested from both the trade and also the officer's recommendation. Moving down the report down to 1.7, what we've done here is basically with 1.7 and 1.8, we've put two tables in there which are from the Private Hire and Taxi Monthly magazine. It's a magazine that ranks a 2-mile journey for every council in the local authority. And what we've done there is showed you exactly where we are with our neighbouring local authorities. As you can see, we're currently ranked at 283 out of 341. and our last increase was 2022. And pretty much the same with our neighbours. They've not had an increase since 2022. In fact, South Holland 2019. And then the second table below that is basically just showing you where we would end up being if we imposed, if you agreed with any of the recommendations. So as I say, a current fare at the moment ranked 283. If you went to option A, a 2 mile journey is going to cost you £6.80 and rank you at 218 in the chart. If we went with option B, the officer's recommendation, that would put a 2 mile journey to £7.50 and rank us at 115. Bear in mind also, as I put there, the national average across the whole of the UK councils is £7.15 for a 2 mile journey, and that puts you at a rank of about 156. You also need to bear in mind as well that the price of petrol has gone down since the last increase in 2022. However, that's only one of the factors that you need to bear in mind. Things like insurance and maintenance costs probably have gone up as well. Excuse me. Just to let you know as well that Fenland District Council has a current total of 145 licensed drivers, of which 92 are Hackney carriage drivers, but they may drive for both Hackney and private hire as well. So, oh God, sorry, beg your pardon. So the committee is asked to consider the information that's within this report, including the two options that have been set out for the council to vary and increase the current tariff charts. You are minded to look, and you may decide to accept option A or option B. You may decide to select your own option, or you can take no action at all. Following your decision today, the application will go out to a proper consultation, a full consultation, and we have to advertise the increase, or the proposed increase, should I say, if we have one, within a local newspaper, and that will be done by officers following this decision. And just for your further information as well, for a taxi, if we do decide to go for a taxi tariff increase, that does incur a small cost to the drivers of between £20 and £30 for the meter guy to come out and alter their meters. And that's the report before you today, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, jumping the gun as usual. Have the taxi trade seen the Fenland officers' proposals?
They have. We did a smaller consultation on that, and you'll see the responses below.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as per some of these consultations, very, very small response back from the trade.
That's typical. Seeing as though that they, you know, on the 2 mile figure, they're, what is it, 70 pence cheaper than what officers want. And I just thought, yes, I just thought that was a bit unusual that they wouldn't want to bump it up a bit.
Have you done a comparison then by trying to work out how far you're going to go under their charges and how far you're going to go under your charges for a long distance? How does that balance up?
We haven't done it over the long distance, but what we have done is we've done it over the 2 mile, which shows in that smaller chart. That shows you what 2 mile journey will cost.
Right, okay, fine.
Considering the, I don't know about other towns in the district, but certainly as far as March is concerned, I do know that the local taxi firms do struggle, particularly in the evenings, to get drivers out on the road. And it is very, very difficult in the evenings to get a taxi in March. On that basis, then the officer's recommendations for that extra nighttime fees to encourage these drivers, I think could well help to get extra drivers on the road. And I know a lot of people in March, certainly, that would be happy to pay the extra fees as long as they can get a taxi.
The comment just, it's difficult to get a taxi in March. It's difficult to get a taxi in any town in the evening. It's not just March, it's all over the place. And I know quite a few taxi drivers, and their attitude is, well, we're not going to work in the evening because it's not worth it. So a modest increase is what is proposed, I think is probably beneficial to them. And has been quite rightly said, to have an evening service, it's the same with buses. But the poor response that the officers have reported, I'm sorry to say, this is typical. I've sat on licensing committees since 2011, and the response from the taxi drivers has been point blank abysmal. It's their trade, but they're not encouraging it. So, yeah, I'll support it.
Yeah, I would also support it, but looking at when I was going through all this, is there no way this can be simplified? Because there's so many things on here, you know, by tenth of a mile and 1.62 miles and all this sort of thing. Is there no way in this day and age we can simplify it down to, you know, when you get in a taxi, you say, like you do a private hire one, if you like. I want to go to Ely, yes, that'll be £20, and thank you very much, and be done with it, you know. I mean, I know they're running out of meters, but I'm just saying, is there no other way we can do it, you know, to do this? But I mean, these sort of things, I mean, to me are quite stupid, I think, but waiting time, 96 seconds. Who counts 96 seconds when you're doing it? I mean, you don't, do you? I mean, you said somebody, 96 seconds is gone and probably still on red. You know, I mean, those sort of things to me are quite, well, I don't know, I won't say the word in here. But
I'm going to ask the expert to answer that question for you, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Andy, is it possible to answer that?
Yeah, I agree with what you say. It does look a bit confusing. It's confusing to us, to be honest, you know what I mean? I don't very often work in meters, and then I threw in yards to Andy, and, you know, and that got even more confusing. So, yeah, it is confusing, and, you know, whatever final decision, as I say, post-consultation and stuff, we'll try and make it as simple as possible. Obviously, you have to have the different tariffs, as in because they're different times. So some are obviously, you know, more in of an evening, some are at weekends and bank holidays. But yeah, and things like the waiting time, unfortunately, we don't know how long the waiting time is because it depends how long it takes someone to get to one end of the town, for instance, to the other, you know, how many hold-ups. So it is difficult because, as I say, it is run on a meter, and that's what they have to have it going as. So completely agree in terms of private hire, they can give you a price. And I think, you know, if it's okay with you, Chair, I'd just like to add in one more point. That is, you know, these proposals, you know, for the Hackney carriage fees, is the maximum that they can charge. So they've got the choice. If they want to charge less than that, you know, that's absolutely fine. If the journey at the end gets there and there's, I don't know, it's come to £15, you know, they can choose to accept £10. You know, it's their decision. So I think that's just worth adding in there. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, can I just add as well? I think it's worth noting as well that pretty much every council around the country operates the same way. We've tried to keep it simple by keeping to 1 mile and an 11th of a mile. The seconds bit with regards to waiting time, every council has it differently, sort of thing. But when they start trying to reduce the meterage down, instead of keeping it at 1 mile, you know, set distance, it just keeps it simple if we keep it at 1 mile. But it's your choice.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. But then, as it's quite right, the drivers don't have to charge what it says on the meter. And I've done a journey in a taxi, and I've got out, and he says, "Oh, give us a tenner." It's not £12. Give us a tenner. And they're quite happy to do that because it means they don't mess around with change. They can get on to the next job straight away. It actually helps them because they're dealing with round figures other than all the technical meterage and all that. So no, they don't have to charge what it is, and quite a few of them don't.
Councillor Carney?
Obviously I'm new to all this, but it's just thinking if we follow the officer's recommendations and it puts the price of defending 2 mile rate above that of like neighbouring districts, is that therefore automatically play into the hands of taxi operators in say Peterborough or South Holland, for instance? I mean, I'm just thinking about the cost implications for people who use them.
I think it's worth noting that yes, we're responding to a request from the trade to look at the taxi tariffs. As you know, as I've mentioned in the report, a lot of the councils, some of the councils haven't put up their fares since 2022. But I think, judging by the list that I've got in front of me, that a lot of councils are following suit. They're looking at this. They are going to be putting their fares up as well. I have the full list if anybody wants to have a look at it, of all 341 councils.
Councillor Meekins?
Right. You said that you were trying to sort of simplify this process, and yet the fraction of a mile is an 11th. Why isn't it a 10th, or why isn't it an 8th, so you're doing a furlong, or why is it an 11th? That seems a very sort of peculiar distance.
I think, to be honest with you, it's basically something that we inherited. So we've, you know, in the 2022 report, it talked about 1 mile and it talked about an 11th. Whereas, like I say, now we've just decided let's just keep it at a mile and an 11th of a mile, and look at and alter the fee rather than reducing meterage and messing around with meterage.
I think again though, you know, as Andy said, if your decision is that you want us to go away further and have a look at changing that, simplifying it down, that's another option open to you. So, you know, it's not a case that you have to decide on option A and option B today only. It could be that, you know, as a recommendation, back to officers, that we go away, look at it and simplify it down even further if we can, and then come back to you with a further proposals. So that's another option open to you, just to sort of put that out there.
Also simplify the mileage as well, not just the structure of it, but you know, the actual mileage, how far you travel. You know, rather than 1.1 of a mile, or just make it a mile, or these meters, just simplify the distance as well.
Councillor Humphrey?
Yeah, just what's the comparison with the sort of scheme we're running? Because clearly this is stuff that's inputted into the meter, the settings of 11th, and while it may seem complicated on here, I mean it's a system the taxi trade are used to, isn't it? Do other local authorities use a similar scale and brief? So basically, looking at the way the trade are accepting it, the most simplest way is to go with the officer recommendation that we're not creating anything new and unwieldy, are we? I just wonder if trying to oversimplify it just creates more work and for the same end, really. But
Councillor Scanlon?
I think Councillor Humphrey is quite right. We've got all these little bits and pieces. So whereas I accept what's going on now and the recommendation, would it be an advantage for the officers to actually look at simplifying the system and rounding up, rounding down, so that when we come to the next meeting and the trade have been consulted on it, they've actually got definitive figures that make sense? Because an 11th of a mile, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's 160 yards, so how does it make sense? So it needs to be looked at overall, and maybe if we look at it and make the system more user-friendly, it might make the trades calculations a little bit more user-friendly. And I think it would be incumbent on the officers to have a look at the mathematics of it, because I don't think they're quite right at the moment.
So if I can sort of understand, I think the consensus is that if we let the officers go away and have a look at how it can be either simplified, or we can get a better idea of how it's set up for both ourselves and for the taxi drivers, you'd rather that than go for option A or B at the moment?
Yeah, I think it needs to be. I'm quite comfortable with the increases at the moment, but the next round, I think the officers need to look at it and try and simplify the system so that the trade and the councillors are more comfortable with this fractions of a mile, an 11th of a mile. Who knows what an 11th of a mile is? Or I do, because I can work mathematics out. But a lot of people don't know what an 11th of a mile is. It's just a ridiculous calculation going forward, but it needs to be simplified so that people and the trade and the councillors understand it a little bit better. I support the increases because it will bring more, hopefully, will bring more trade out in the evenings and they can work it. But I think overall it needs to be looked at, and maybe if we look at it, some of the other councils, and I noticed from the list here, South Holland haven't raised their thing since 2019. Maybe they've got the same issues. People don't understand the mathematics of what's going on, and I think that needs to be simplified. And I would say give it a year to go through the calculations with the trade and agree it with the trade, because they're the ones who operate it, to get a better understanding for the trade, the councillors and the public. Absolutely, yeah. I don't say we reject it now and try and pile in on it. I think it needs to be looked at probably over maybe the next year when it comes before us again, that it's sorted out in a more logical manner, because it's not at the moment.
Is that a proposal you're putting forward, Councillor Scanlon?
I don't know what consensus is being set A or B.
Surely we have to go with the proposals. We're voting for what's on the paper there. We can't say, look, we're going to change it after we've agreed that motion, can we?
No. It's the opposite.
But you were saying that you want to agree this and then change it later. Sorry.
So my understanding is that you're suggesting Appendix B, but with an amendment that we look to revise and simplify.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Meekins.
Yeah, as I understand what Michelle said, we don't have to accept A or B today. We can, if we want, make our own suggestion. I mean, my personal thought is, it's been a couple of years since these were raised, so presumably this increase is going to arguably last 2 years. So shouldn't we get it right now before we actually implement it? Because if we are going to make changes in the future, it seems to me that it's making more work, and I think personally I'd rather get this right now between both us, the officers, and the taxi trade, so that when it goes into implementation, everybody's happy with it.
Yes, option B has already been through that process, and whilst I appreciate the previous comments about reviewing the whole structure, perhaps going back to a 1/10 of a mile, whatever people decide on in the long term, but I think that should be a project for next year's consultations, and at this stage, if I'm not precipitous, I'm quite happy to propose that option B be adopted.
Is that option B with the amendment or without? Obviously taking it away and looking at it for future. Okay, so could I have a proposer for, I'll go with the quickest, that's Councillor Murphy. Do we have a seconder for that? All in favour? Okay, with the amendment, Appendix B is carried.
Lovely, thank you, Chairman. Okay, so as I've kind of said on a number of meetings, the Business and Planning Act, the pavement licence, the temporary permission, if you like, that was born about COVID and coming out of the COVID recovery, has now come to us permanently. So we thought we'd had it temporary, but no, it's now permanent. So, on the 31st of March 2024, there was, as part of the Business and Planning Act 2020 and the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act 2023, it was determined that this would be a permanent function of the District Council and licensing. What that did was basically give us the ability to make some changes to the fee structure. There's obviously, which I'm going to go on to explain in a moment. It's also given us the option to take enforcement action, because prior to it coming in on the 31st of March, we didn't have the ability to do any enforcement action. That was still sat with the highways, which kind of made it a little bit messy, because it wasn't great. So, as I say, going forward, the sort of key changes, if you like, is obviously, as I said, the fees. So under the new Act, we can charge a maximum of £500 for a new pavement licence and £350 for a renewal pavement licence. Another key thing to take into account is that the pavement licences are now can be issued for 2 years. So previously, they always obviously expired on the 30th of September each year. They'll now be able to run for 2 years. So the fees that I'm asking you to consider today, which I'm going to be putting forward in a minute, that will be for 2 years, with the exception that if we feel that there is a reason we will grant on a lesser scale than 2 years, then obviously that's an officer discretion to grant on that. There may be the odd reasoning to grant less, but on the majority it will be the 2 years. So what we've done is looked at it, and I'll be honest, you know, if you take a sort of a county average, I think we're all different on this at the minute. There's not a consensus across the county. Some councils are looking and just going, yeah, we can charge 500, let's just charge 500. What we've done is a bit of a cost analysis, and I will be honest and say some of that is a bit of an unknown, because we've not had to do the enforcement action or take any of that so far, so we don't know how long that's going to take us and how much of that we'll have to deal with. So when we put together these fees, again, what I've done is tried to look at the larger businesses and the smaller businesses. So if you've got, for instance, a small coffee shop that wants just 2 tables and a maximum of, say, 4 or 6 chairs, we've sort of done that on a smaller scale, and then obviously a larger scale. So, as I say, we've gone for fee option A, which is up to a maximum of 3 tables and 12 chairs, and then option fee B is for over 3 tables and obviously over 12 chairs. The fee associated with that, so fee A, we've gone for a new licence of £350, or the recommendation, and a renewal of £250. And on option fee B is £390 for a new and £290 for a renewal. as I say, it is, I appreciate slightly more when it first came in. Obviously they had it for nothing, then we put it to the £100, and then obviously we're kind of moving slightly forward. Yeah, I appreciate, you know, as a council, we'd like to continue issuing it for nothing, but as we know, we've obviously got a cost recovery of officers and the enforcement action that's required and the administration process of obviously the application. The other changes that obviously have come about, so obviously it's moved to the 2 years, the fee element, the consultation period also has now moved from a 7-day consultation period and a determination period of 7 days, and that's moved to 14 days for each, which is slightly better, I have to say. Gives us the opportunity to go out there and obviously have some conversations with neighbouring businesses should we need to, and I'll obviously listen to any concerns that do come forward during the consultation period. The other thing that's come in is there's some clearer guidance now in relation to the minimum width, of which for obviously disability access, so it was set previously at a maximum of 1500 millimetres, it's now 2000. We have got some leeway in which we can still issue a pavement licence if there is only a width of 1500 mil to the edge of the footway, but that will be on a case-by-case basis. We will be looking to take the stance of it needs to be, you know, 2 metres basically, or 2000 millimetres, should I say, clear, because obviously we want to sort of go with that. On Appendix B of the report, you'll see that there's some conditions that we've had on quite a few of the pavement licences going forward. We've kind of just had a relook at those, so we've got obviously some mandatory conditions, and then obviously some national ones and some local ones that we can put in, you know, some additional local ones should we need to, and we feel there's a requirement. And again, that will be a case-by-case basis. As I already touched on, obviously local authority now has the enforcement powers, so again, if we've got repeat offenders, that obviously, you know, it wouldn't just be a case we will go up and remove their furniture. Obviously we'll do a you know, stepped approach to hopefully encourage them to apply for a licence, but we do have the power to obviously remove their furniture from the highway. You know, not that I intend going out with my transit van and start, you know, removing any furniture, but we do have that option obviously going forward. As I say, just to give you a sort of bit of a background on, I wouldn't say we have hundreds of pavement licences in the district. We've only got about 8 or 9 within the whole district, which is quite low. And I think, you know, going forward, whatever is kind of agreed and approved today, that will give us now the kind of, you know, we'll go out, we'll get some social media around this, you know, and obviously we'll speak to the current business owners that have their licences currently expiring on 30th of September 2024, so that we can make them aware of the changes, the lead time into it, and how they can apply. So again, we'll make sure that that's, you know, guided through the change, should we say. And also obviously any new businesses that are coming up that, you know, we can look at, discuss and discuss with them the option of a pavement licence. As I say, you know, within the report I've added, you know, various links to obviously the guidance, which, you know, is in there. Alternative, obviously, options have been considered. Yes, we could just, you know, point blank say, oh, it's a £500 and a £350, and put that option in front of you. So again, you know, although within the report I'm kind of recommending the lower fees, of course you've got the option to go with the higher fees. You don't have to go with what is recommended within the report. Yeah, I think that's covered everything off. As I say, happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Can I have a proposer for that report, please? Thank you. And the seconder? Councillor Meekins, thank you. It's now open for discussion. Councillor Meekins.
Yeah. Is there a recommendation for the area of a table and 4 chairs? I'm thinking, don't laugh. What I'm thinking of, I mean, is there, I think if you've got a pub, say, in the centre of town, and you want lots of tables outside, I mean, is there a sort of a recommended area for each of a table, or is it sort of as many as the landlord can get outside as long as they pay the fee?
So obviously it needs to be adjacent to the property, in terms of, you know, what they're applying for. And, you know, in terms of how many they apply for, again, we would look at that and say, well, actually, is that suitable to have that many tables and chairs? And then what we are encouraging, depending again on the location, and we're trying to encourage this with all of them, is that they have the barriers up. So, you know, the barriers with the, well, they can have the choice of barriers, but, you know, with the extendy, if you like, bits in between. So it nicely barriers it off, and it's all contained, should I say. That's what we would be looking for. If we've got, should I say, concerns about a business that has a pavement licence that is encroaching out into other areas, then we would potentially look to add that on as a condition of the licence. And again, we can deal with those individual businesses on a case-by-case basis. So, yeah.
So when they apply for a licence, if it's 3 or under, they apply for 3 or under. If it's more than 3, do they actually have to state how many units, if you like, that they're going to put outside?
Yeah, so with each application, they need to send in a plan, so showing where the tables are going to be situated, if you like, and also the dimensions. And then obviously, as officers, we will go out, we will measure that. Not that we don't believe what they're measuring, but we will go out, measure it, and just check the area to make sure we believe it is suitable before we'll issue the pavement licence. Which is why, if I'm honest, we're quite happy that the consultation period is increased now to 14 days, because 7 days doesn't really give us a big turnaround. So I'm happy that that's increased, definitely.
Councillor Carney?
Just asking, if you remember last autumn, Michelle, that I had a query off a business owner in Chatteris about pavement licences, and it was found that their particular business, their footprint outside their premises was exempt from it. So is that a case of where that particular business might be exempt from this particular charging scheme, or will they be covered by this as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if a business owns their own, I'm going to say kind of front door area, because some businesses have got an area, if you like, directly at the edge of their property. So, you know, and that remains theirs. It's not highways, so therefore they wouldn't need a pavement licence. So, yeah, in answer to your question, yes, they would be exempt. That's their property. It's not under the Highways Act. Yeah. So if they own the area, then they wouldn't need to apply to us for a licence. So, yeah.
Councillor Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the present, will this be mandatory that when anybody puts something outside, they'll have to pay for it? Because I know a lot of people that they'll put one out one day and a couple out one day and then not the next day and get away with it. So do we look into it to make sure that they are paying and everybody's paying? I mean, I don't mind what the price is or anything like that, but what I like, if one's going to pay, everybody's got to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I explained, so previously, prior to this coming in at the end of March, we didn't have the enforcement power, so we could go along and kind of encourage them to apply. But if they didn't, we didn't really have any kind of enforcement behind us. Now we do. So again, it will be a case of once, obviously, if this is approved, then obviously, you know, the act is already in. It's about the fees today and things like that. But, you know, what we would do is obviously make sure that all of our colleagues are aware. So street scene officers, other officers within the council. So if they see that, report that into us. And obviously, of course, we will deal with that on a case-by-case basis. Absolutely.
What is going to be the mandate is to decide the size of the tables, because think about it theoretically, this is the table, this could have 6 or 8 people behind it. So if you've got quite a large area, you could say, I'm going to have a table for 3 and I'm going to be able to get 24 people around that. Yet on the other hand, if you have the smaller tables, you're going to be paying more for the same amount of people outside.
Yeah, so that's why within the two fee structures, we've included the tables and the chairs. So it's literally sort of, so what was it, three, let me just go back.
3 tables and 12 chairs.
Yeah, 3 tables and 12 chairs. So if they have a big table and they've got 12 chairs around it, you know, that's fine. But if then they have 24 chairs around it, then they'll need to pay the higher fee. Just, you know, at the end of the day, again, we don't need to go with that option. You can just choose to go with one option, but it was just trying to balance out the very, very small business that within their footprint could reasonably only probably get 2 tables. Why should they have to potentially pay as much as let's say a large chain that could have 10 tables out there? So we were just trying to balance that out, that was all.
It'd probably be a better idea not to do it on tables, to do it on how many chairs they're going to put outside. Yeah, but I'm saying that because it's a woolly area, if you just do it on the tables because of the size of how many chairs you're going to put outside, and then just, they can put the tables out there, but charge them on the amount of seats outside.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, I thought I'd added that into the report. So it was that number of tables and or chairs. So it was either. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. So it sort of covered both, because that was what my thought was, that somebody will come along with a massive great table and then, you know. So yeah.
Councillor Humphrey.
Clarity on, I mean, obviously some establishments that want to trade out on the pavement have got more space than others. So presumably you would need to ensure that a public footpath is still maintained for pedestrians as opposed to pushing them off the pavement onto the road, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where we would go out and do the measurements to make sure that there is still adequate room on the footpath for pedestrians to come by. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Slandon.
Thank you, Chairman. Got a particular issue in Whittlesea, as you probably know. The George has tables outside, but also within that curtilage, there are 2 FDC seats that the public use. Now, some people who sat on those seats, and when they come out to serve food, drink and outside, oh, this is on our property, you've got to move. Or they've got a dog, they're walking a dog and they've sat down. So they've got an issue. Now, whether we move those seats out of that curtilage area for the George, or we leave them there and remind the George that the public are allowed to sit on these seats. They don't have to buy food, they don't have to buy drink, and they are walking their dog. So it's been an issue at Whittlesea for quite some time, since the original open space dining and that came into place. So it's been an issue there for some time, and it's still going on. So that needs to be clarified to the George, that these people think, or we move those seats out of that area and remove that problem.
Okay, yeah, happy to take that one away and have a look at that. I was aware previously, but I thought that had been resolved. Are we saying it's still going on? Okay. Right, okay. Yeah, happy to take that away, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Humphrey. Do I have a second for that? Everybody happy with the recommendations? Aye. Yeah, okay. All in favour, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes this meeting. I declare it closed. Thank you very much for attending.